What's up, guys? It's your boy Jalen here on another episode of Elevated Minds, and today's episode is going to be called The Ego Must Die. I know it sounds harsh, but it's the cold hard truth, and if you stick with me through the rest of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why. So, if this is your first time on the channel, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, follow me on my socials. Everything's going to be in the description. Let's go on and hop into this video. So, first we got to start off by saying, what is the ego? All right, so our minds are made up of three different parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. I'm going to actually read you guys a few definitions to give you a better scope of what they actually mean. So, the ego is the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious, and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. Now, we're going to go next to the id, the primitive and instinctive part of the mind. That's going to be where you get a lot of your urges, your drives, whether sexual, hunger, things like that, breathing, your innate things that are just there. And then, of course, we got the superego, operates kind of as a moral conscience. You kind of get that from your early childhood and things like that, your set of morals and things like that. Now, the ego, as you can see from what I said, kind of goes and bounces in between both of those, the id and the superego. It kind of gives you your sense of reality. Your ego is your set of principles. It kind of is what you are. The ego is what you are, what you perceive yourself to be. And so, why would I say something about the ego must die? That sounds really crazy, right? The reason why is because the ego gets in your way of a lot of things. Have you ever seen somebody with an inflated ego? People with inflated egos, you know, they just don't like to be wrong. I'm gonna actually tell you a few other things for people that have big egos. They deny pain. They hide mistakes. You know, they want to be perfect in the eyes of themselves, in the eyes of others. They focus on what other people think more than what they themselves think. They refuse to ask for help. They deny weaknesses. They're pretty much out of touch with themselves and their sense of reality. They have a very grandiose way of looking at themselves. They're up here. They have no faults, things like that. When you see people that are able to have really fragile egos, when someone can just come against something that they're doing or something that they're saying, someone might say, oh, you know, I have the best music in the world. Someone comes up to them and says, you know, your music's really not that good. You think that you're great, but you're not. And you see that person, God, like they don't even know what to, you know what I'm saying? Because you've hurt their ego. And when you have such an inflated sense of ego, things might tend to go, you know, you might just want to be in control of everything. You're perfect. You know, others are lower than you. You just can't be wrong. And you really just don't want to have a huge inflated ego. You think you're better than people and things like that. But just because there's big ego we can't forget that there's also people that have small egos. So people that have small egos, they might say things like, you know, oh, I'm not good enough. This is where you get your, you know, your self-deprecation and your low self-worth. You know what I'm saying? Low self-esteem. You're in your eyes, you're lower than everyone. And you know, do you see the problem? If you have a really big ego, then you're gonna come off as a douche. If you have a small ego, you're gonna come off as a people pleaser and you know, just somebody that just gets walked over like a doormat. You don't want that, right? So I'm gonna tell you why you need to have an ego death. It sounds insane, but the ego has got to die. If you want to become your best self, you've got to kill your ego. And the reason why is because your ego is what you have always known. It might be things that your parents believed or things that you've noticed as a child, beliefs, limiting beliefs, things like that. You've compiled all this information and you've created your identity of who you are now. Now, the problem with that is when you're trying to become your best self, you're trying to reach into greater heights and do big things, you're stuck in this ego of yours, this identity, this self-identity, this world that you created of yourself. You're stuck there. And the only way to get out is you have to break that construct. How do you break the construct? This ego has to die. I'm not saying that your ego is going to be dead forever. you create, and it's like a rebirth of your mind. This is what I believe is, a lot of people believe is your actual awakening. This is how you get to your self-growth. This is when you really begin to start your journey, when your ego dies. Because the thing about the ego is it does not want to grow. It wants to stay the way it is. It's trying to protect this world and this entity in the way that it always has been and always will be. So this is how you get people that don't want to grow. They stay the same. They have the same interactions. They have the exact same life. They have the same type of people, the same circle, the same type of jobs, the same type of opportunities. They date the same type of people. They are in this perpetual rat race that goes over and over again. This is their ego, and they don't want to, break out of that and think differently, a little bit out of the box. This is all that they can be. And I don't want this to be you guys. There's a lot of people that are stuck in their lower sense of reality. But the thing is, once you can kill the ego, once you can let go of those old principles, these old beliefs of yourself, let it go, break that, and ascend higher. Once you do that, once you have an ego death, and here's the thing, ego death is usually done by rock bottoms, a series of bad events, things like that. Something that's going to shake up your reality, your worth, your thought process. It really makes you think. The things that happen really make you think, how did I get here? What's going on right now? This doesn't seem normal. Once you hit a rock bottom, the only way to go is up. Once you're going up, you're rebuilding. You're like building your way back up to wherever you were and to go further than that. So when you kill your ego, you're actually starting brand new. You're able to grasp new concepts. You're able to believe new things. You're able to break through these self-doubts and these self-limiting beliefs. Those will be gone. Whatever you used to just believe just because that's the construct that you created for yourself, that's done. A lot of people say that after they've taken certain psychedelics and things like that, they've had an ego death. But one of the main ways that you're going to have an ego death is just going through life and coming to rock bottoms and having things happen. And once you get there, once you're at this low, I can't even really explain it, because I've had an ego death, and my ego death was brought on with a large series of unfortunate events. I've actually been divorced. I've had a girlfriend who actually died right in front of me. Basically, I've been totally broke. I've struggled financially. Technically, I've been homeless before. There's a lot of different things that has happened. I've been passed over for opportunities. I've been lied to, cheated, manipulated, beaten down to nothing, basically. And I'm still here, and I'm better than ever now. I've gone through a lot of things. I've experienced a lot. I've been at multiple rock bottoms. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because if I hadn't gone through those things, I wouldn't have had my ego death, and I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be enlightened and be able to explain how this stuff works and be able to help somebody like you that's watching. So the reason why I'm coming to you today is because an ego death is so important. You just really can't beat having that, because if you hold on to that ego, if you have an overinflated ego or a very low sense of ego, you're in two bad spectrums. They're both terrible spectrums. I don't feel like one is really worse than the other. They're both terrible. Someone that has a super huge ego could have all the money in the world and be a total dick, but to be honest, like, that person could be their ego could be it still needs to be fixed. You have people that could be think really low of themselves, and that's still terrible too. They're not better than the other. They're both pretty terrible. So the thing is, we have to have an ego death. If you want to ascend, if you want to become your best self, if you want to throw these old ways behind and start new, you can recreate yourself. You can rebrand yourself. You can be whoever you want to be. The only thing that's holding you back is yourself. This ego, this thing that grabs hold of us, and when you try to make that jump, it pulls you back with these old habits. It pulls you back with these old friends. It pulls you back with these old situations. It just oh no, this is the type of people you need to date. That type of person's out of your league. oh no, you need to relax. You don't need to try and start that business because you're doing fine right where you're at. Oh, you don't need new friends. You got friends right here. When you're trying to break out of that construct, it's not going to be easy. Having an ego death is definitely a pretty deeply spiritual, a very spiritual happening. So when that does happen, I believe it happens in most people's lives. It doesn't happen in everyone's life because some people just don't want that change. Some people do hit rock bottoms and they stay in that mentality, victim mentality, and then they might have a really low sense of ego after that. But for those of you that want to be your best self, that want to continue to get better, to get the best out of life, bear with yourself. Give yourself the patience and the love and the light that you need, because once you come out on the other side of that ego death, that's who you really are. Once you break out of whatever this construct is, whatever these mind principles and things that you have of yourself, once you break out of that, underneath that is who you actually are, your actual essence, your spirit, who you actually are as a person, as a human being, as a spiritual being. That's who you are. And then you really start to live. That's when life really begins, because now you got a new sense of life, you got a new sense of purpose. You start to really search for what your purpose is if you don't know it already. And it all starts after that ego death. That ego wants to keep things the way that they are, but if you can break out of that, I'm telling you guys, it's going to be beautiful on the other side, and I'm going to be right here waiting for you. All right. I don't want to prolong this episode. I hope that I provided you guys with some value. I hope I helped someone. If so, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on all of my socials, Instagram, Facebook. I don't have my Snapchat up there, but I need to. You can follow me on all those. I usually post memes and stuff like that, and inspirational quotes on Instagram, Facebook. You'll also see a lot of my blog, my journey, my travels, my fun stuff that I do. All that stuff's going to be in there too. So, like I said, I hope I helped someone today. Be safe, guys. Love you guys, and stay elevated.